not a chance in hell he's clean.
No.
Not a chance in hell. As big as The Rock is, at 50, he's so massive, and he's so different than he was when he was 30.
Once crowned Hollywood's muscle king, worshipped as the Natty King, and pulling in billions, The Rock is now drowning in scandal. From Joe Rogan blasting him for allegedly hiding a 20-year steroid habit to fresh investigations into shady Maui wildfire charity funds, the empire he built is starting to crack wide open. The numbers tell the story. Millions of followers gone overnight, $100 million brand deals slipping through his hands, and his comment sections flooded with roasting memes and brutal takedowns. For someone who once stood unshakable at the top, this downfall feels almost surreal. Let's not forget, this is the same man who once ruled the planet with over 400 million followers, an $800 million fortune, and a film career that pulled in more than $10 billion at the box office. From the globe's most admired muscle icon to being painted as a fraud, this flip in public image is one of the harshest Hollywood has ever seen. So, what exactly turned the man once hailed as the people's hero into a so-called deceiver? What was the breaking point that turned admiration into global ridicule? Before Hollywood superstardom, Dwayne Johnson shook the world as a wrestling legend, etched into pop culture forever with his famous catchphrase, "Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?" From the ring, he didn't just fade, he skyrocketed, becoming one of the highest-paid actors alive. With Jumanji racking up nearly $1 billion, Fast and Furious pulling in billions worldwide, and Moana sailing to over $680 million, he was unstoppable. Year after year, Forbes crowned him king of earnings, with his peak hitting a jaw-dropping $120 million in just 1 year. Back then, The Rock could do no wrong, until the cracks began to show. The Rock wasn't just a movie star, he was a worldwide phenomenon. On Instagram, his empire ballooned to over 400 million followers, making his account one of the biggest on the planet. Every post was a guaranteed hit, racking up millions of likes within hours, fueling his image as an untouchable giant. In WWE, he didn't just compete, he conquered, snagging more than 10 world championships and etching his name into wrestling history forever. Magazines like Time couldn't get enough, listing him over and over among the 100 most influential people alive. Fans loved the consistency of his brand. A disciplined machine, a man who hustled harder than anyone else, sharing insane workouts, carefully measured meals, and his famous all-in philosophy. On social media, he wasn't just flexing, he was preaching positivity, motivating millions to grind harder and believe in themselves. This wasn't just marketing, it was a fortress built on trust. To his audience, The Rock embodied strength, discipline, and authenticity. But when your entire empire is built on being the hardest worker in the room, even the tiniest crack in the story can trigger an earthquake. And that crack finally came, shaking the foundation of everything he stood for. September 2025, Venice Film Festival. The stage was set for the premiere of The Smashing Machine. But instead of cheers for his performance, whispers turned into roars about his body. Gone were the legendary muscles that built his empire. He showed up leaner, noticeably smaller, and fans couldn't stop talking. In just a few months, The Rock's trademark bulk seemed to have evaporated, sparking chaos online. Rumors of steroid use exploded overnight. On one side stood The Rock, swearing by his natural grind. On the other, fitness influencers and heavyweights like Greg Doucette, Joe Rogan, American Thor, and Derek from More Plates, More Dates, all calling him out. They armed themselves with receipts, including a bombshell study from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. Steroid users can pack on 13 pounds of muscle in 100 days, while natural lifters manage just 5. That comparison lit the internet on fire, leaving fans to wonder, was the Natty King ever really natty at all? It wasn't just about numbers, it was about biology, recovery speed, protein synthesis, training efficiency. Steroids give an edge that no natural lifter can touch. And that's exactly what critics used to tear down The Rock's image. They claimed his monster physique over 2 decades wasn't built in the gym. It was built in the lab. His proud natty king status, according to them, nothing but smoke and mirrors.
About The Rock, you think he's natural?
Oh, he's absolutely not natty. They said he did a 12-week training program for WWE, and he had a full six-pack, leanest he's ever been. He's 53. I'm like, guys, he's on everything. Not only do I not think he's natural, I don't think he's on HRT. I think he's on the kitchen sink.
Really?
I think he's on all of it and then some. You don't get big like that into your 50s compared to your 40s and 30s. Like you see some photos of him in his 30s, he's way bigger and leaner now. Then you watch his little workout. This is The Rock, I'm gonna go through my leg workout. And then he gets in there. He had 2 plates on each side of the leg press. This is the waist. I'm like, it's his first set, he's warming up. No, he's stuck with that weight the whole time. So he did this workout. He's like, look how hard it is. 30-pound walking lunges. 2 plates was every exercise. I'm like, is he a bikini competitor? And he's faking how hard it is. You know, like, oh, you know, he's grimacing.
Sounds like you don't like him because he's tall.
I love The Rock, which is the funny thing. I don't hate him for it, but it's like, come on. He's just training.
Rock has become a pebble. He's eroded, he's withered away. What you don't know, because you didn't watch my previous video, is that The Rock was suffering from cardiovascular disease. How many of you think The Rock is natural? Do I have to keep reminding you? There's a 1 in a million chance he's natural.
Leading the charge was Greg Doucette, who went viral dissecting every change in The Rock's body across social media. And he didn't hold back, firing off jokes that cut deep. The Rock's turned into a pebble. He's wilted, he's withered. I've got more muscle than him now, and I'm only 5'6". His sarcasm hit like a body slam, but buried inside was a brutal argument. Doucette claimed Johnson's shocking drop, nearly 50 to 60 pounds of muscle in just months, was a telltale sign of someone cycling off steroids.
We've seen other WWE superstars go about this. Remember Batista? He looked significantly smaller, and why do you think that is? He's no longer abusing performance-enhancing drugs. And so he followed in the footsteps of none other than the legend Batista, who did the exact same thing. If y'all think that The Rock was natural, that I'm just talking out of my ass, explain how he lost all his muscles in a matter of months. You thought that previous physique was just up at 4:30, hardest worker in the room? Are you insane? The only way you lose that much muscle that quickly like that is if you go from abusing steroids to not.
He argued no movie role, no age factor could explain a muscle loss that extreme. And if The Rock was really natural, he never would have carried that kind of mass into his 50s in the first place, let alone lose almost 30 kilos overnight. For Doucette, the dramatic transformation was a confession, silent but louder than any words The Rock could say. But Doucette wasn't the only one throwing punches. Joe Rogan jumped into the fire with his trademark bluntness.
Not a chance in hell he's clean.
No.
Not a chance in hell. As big as The Rock is, at 50, he's so massive and he's so different than he was when he was 30.
Calling out The Rock's old story about trying steroids once at 18 as flat-out nonsense. Rogan broke it down simple. You can't use once at 18 and keep building muscle till 50. It doesn't work like that. To prove his point, he pointed at the glaring contrast. Early WWE Rock, big but still believable, versus middle-aged Rock, looking superhuman and almost too good to be real. Rogan's final word? That's impossible! With the heat reaching boiling point, Dwayne Johnson finally broke his silence. He claimed the sudden muscle drop wasn't a scandal. It was art. According to him, slimming down was a calculated move to embody Mark Kerr, the gritty MMA fighter infamous for heavy steroid use. Johnson framed it as an artistic sacrifice, insisting he set aside his ego and his trademark physique to fully commit to the role. To him, this was dedication, not detox. But Greg Doucette wasn't buying it for a second.
My only wish on top of this would be if The Rock came out and explained exactly what he's doing. Hey guys, you see how I've lost all my muscles? The reason is because I had to stop abusing performance-enhancing drugs. I was playing the superhero actor card. I had to have a greater physique than last time. I wanted to be at my best shape ever, in my 50s. Does that even make logical sense? I mean, bro isn't Mike O'Hearn. And so because of that, because of the right circumflex artery, it was being shut down, I had to decide to make a change. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be living longer than last time. As The Rock, please don't do it. So The Rock went on a juice cleanse, lost about 50 pounds of muscle. And we're not talking about orange juice, we're talking about steroids. Now, the only reason we're talking about this is because in comparison to how he looked before, he's significantly smaller.
He tore apart the explanation with venomous sarcasm, firing off, did he really need to lose 60 pounds of muscle to play a steroid-pumped fighter? Is this acting, or is he just running from the truth? For Doucette, this wasn't preparation for Hollywood. It was the biological crash of someone stepping off a cycle. He hammered it home. If that's artistic sacrifice, then it looks exactly like the symptoms of quitting steroids. Joe Rogan came in swinging too, pointing out the glaring holes in Johnson's defense. He asked the question fans had been screaming for years. If The Rock is truly clean, why has he never released blood test results? Why only talk? Rogan doubled down, contrasting Johnson's WWE build, strong but believable, with his cartoonishly massive, middle-aged body, calling it unnatural. His verdict? The acting excuse was just another dodge. And then American Thor poured gasoline on the fire. With raw emotion, he declared, Dwayne Johnson's body is living proof of chemical intervention.
What Joe was saying The Rock did, which is steroids, is something The Rock has denied. His father denied, his uncles denied, the whole family's denied. It's one of those things. It wouldn't be overly big deal. In all fairness, it wouldn't be that big of a deal if you weren't out there telling people about nutrition and telling people about your diet, telling people about your workouts. As soon as you start doing that and trying to influence and motivate and bring people along the journey, but you lie to them about the journey, right? I mean, he's Liver King. You're Liver King all over again. It's the exact same.
But for Thor, the scandal went deeper than steroids. The real outrage, he argued, was that The Rock sold a fantasy to millions. An impossible dream packaged as hard work, clean living, and discipline. He claimed Johnson wasn't just building muscles, he was building illusions, cashing in on the hope of young people worldwide who believed they could achieve the impossible naturally. No amount of clean eating or training alone could explain what Dwayne Johnson built, critics claimed. To them, it wasn't inspiration, it was a carefully packaged lie. And if Greg Doucette's sarcasm didn't sting enough, Derek from More Plates, More Dates came in with a cold, clinical breakdown. He stated bluntly that maintaining such a superhuman physique for decades almost certainly required chemical help. Hormones, TRT, growth hormone, even high-dose nandrolone. Derek zeroed in on Venice as the smoking gun. That sudden physical collapse wasn't just losing weight for a role, he argued. It looked exactly like a body crashing after ending a cycle. He even suggested the drop could have been tied to looming health concerns, making Johnson's explanation look weaker by the second. With the walls closing in, The Rock fired back. He claimed age and work pressures were the real culprits. At 50, he explained, it's simply harder to keep up the same bulk, and slimming down was both for his health and his character. He doubled down, I've never relied on drugs to build this career. But the critics weren't convinced. That's when former UFC star Chael Sonnen detonated a bombshell comparison. Dwayne Johnson is just Hollywood's Liver King. For Sonnen, the outrage wasn't even about substances. It was about the illusion, the way Johnson sold millions on a dream of clean, hard work, while allegedly hiding the reality behind the curtain. The debate shifted from muscle to morality. Greg Doucette cut deep with a simple question. If this is really about health, why not admit the truth? Why let fans keep living a lie? And American Thor echoed the same, saying Johnson owed his supporters the honesty they deserved, instead of pretending discipline and sweat alone built his empire. From whispers of doubt to outright accusations, the trust The Rock spent decades building was collapsing. He wasn't just a blockbuster star anymore, he was being dissected as a symbol of contradiction, a case study in how fast a carefully built image can shatter. Fans who once saw him as integrity and grind personified were now staring at a fractured figure, and the cracks kept spreading. Once the steroid storm cracked his perfect image, the public wasted no time digging deeper. And that's when the Maui Fund scandal came roaring back. For many fans, this was the fatal blow. Suddenly, the man once crowned the people's champion was being painted as a symbol of betrayal and greed. August 2023, the Maui wildfires ripped through communities, destroying homes, lives, and futures. In the middle of the devastation, Dwayne, The Rock Johnson, and Oprah Winfrey stepped up, launching the Maui People's Fund with a flashy $10 million pledge, $5 million each. They asked the public to join in, urging everyday folks to pitch in $1,200 monthly. At first, it sounded noble, but the glow didn't last. The backlash hit like a tidal wave. Fans couldn't believe a near billionaire was asking regular people, struggling to stretch $1,200 just to pay bills, to dig into their pockets. Outrage exploded across social media. One furious user on X wrote, "A billionaire asking poor people to donate? That's peak shamelessness." Another mocked, "The Rock could buy Maui, but he's asking us to fund relief." And it wasn't just about money, it was about trust. While millions scraped to survive amid crushing inflation, The Rock's appeal felt tone-deaf, almost insulting. To make things worse, questions swirled over transparency. Where exactly was the money going? Why didn't Johnson and Oprah, two people who could give far more, carry the bulk of the burden themselves? Instead, they shifted the weight to the public. The silence from Johnson only deepened suspicion. To critics, it echoed the steroid saga, an evasive Rock dodging proof and offering only polished PR lines. Some online even compared him to Sam Pepper, a notorious figure exposed for exploiting audience trust. And while The Rock faced no fraud charges, the way he handled the Maui Fund stirred the same uneasy feeling. A star who had once inspired millions, now accused of taking advantage of the very people who built his empire. The people's champion wasn't looking like a champion anymore. He was starting to look like a corporation in human form. The Maui Fund scandal cracked open a much bigger conversation. Are celebrity charities really about helping? Or are they just glossy PR moves dressed up as goodwill? When the ultra-wealthy stand on a stage asking struggling families to dig into their pockets, is that true generosity? Or is it responsibility shifting in its most shameless form? Fans began questioning whether fundraising had become less about relief and more about branding. And here's where the two scandals connect. The steroids and the Maui Fund may look like separate issues, but they both strike at the same nerve. A massive gap between the image The Rock sells and the reality of his actions. The steroid storm shredded the idea of honesty in his physique, while the Maui Fund exposed a bigger societal wound. The warped relationship between celebrity wealth and the endless burdens dumped on ordinary people. The Rock's story is no longer just about a Hollywood superstar under fire. It's about the collapse of an entire archetype. For decades, the hero image has been crafted in Hollywood. Flawless, disciplined, generous, larger than life. But when the lights fade and the curtain drops, what's left isn't strength. It's doubt. Once trust begins to crack, it doesn't just crumble for one man, it infects the way people see every so-called role model. And that's the painful lesson of Dwayne Johnson's fall. Honesty and transparency are the only real foundation for respect. Muscles fade, wealth evaporates, but when trust is broken, it's almost impossible to rebuild. You can sculpt the perfect body with steroids, you can polish your name with charity campaigns, but time and public scrutiny will always rip the mask away. The truth is, fans never demanded perfection. They demanded authenticity. If The Rock had admitted to medical enhancements, or if he had opened the books on the Maui Fund instead of dodging questions, he might have kept his crown. Instead, the very image he built became the weapon used to tear him down. In today's skeptical world, transparency is the only currency that truly holds value. And The Rock's story proves that fame comes with a price. When the public crowns someone a hero, that celebrity owes more than just performances on screen. They owe honesty, fairness, and responsibility. Because when the richest stars stand on pedestals asking the struggling to donate, the hypocrisy cuts deep. It exposes a bitter paradox. Those with the least end up carrying the weight for those with the most. That paradox left fans questioning everything. Was this about genuine goodwill, or was it just another calculated PR stunt to polish reputations? The outrage turned into a wake-up call. People realize they can admire the grind, the gym motivation, the hustle mindset, but they should never tie their hopes to an image built in Hollywood boardrooms. Because behind the curtain, idols are still human, full of ambition, ego, mistakes, and sometimes outright deception. This is the harsh truth fans had to face. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wasn't just a movie star or wrestler. He was marketed as a living symbol of strength, discipline, and principles. But when the steroid allegations collided with the Maui fund scandal, the cracks in that polished image were impossible to ignore. What was once celebrated as the unshakable people's champion was suddenly being viewed as a carefully constructed illusion, an empire that looked solid on the outside but was crumbling from within. This isn't just the story of a fallen star. It's a harsh reminder that there's always a gap between the public persona and the real self. Fans might forgive mistakes, but deceit? That wound cuts too deep to heal easily. The question now lingers heavy in the air. Can The Rock ever reclaim the trust he's lost? Or is this fracture in the public's heart permanent? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the mask has slipped and the world is watching every move. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe so you never miss the next drop. And don't go anywhere. Check out the next video you'll see on your screen for even more explosive celebrity drama. I'll see you there.